thank you everybody for coming. As you know, man, this is a fun time of the year, so we're chomping at the bit. We got a long way to go, even though we open up a week from Friday. But it's an exciting time, and looking forward to playing somebody with a different uniform on in the other dugout. So as like any year, once the season ends, good, bad, the way you want it, the way you didn't want it, the preparation is on, and you're always preparing for the future. But as soon as you close shop on the season before, it's roster management and developing players and connection and the goal of putting a championship team together. So here we are, one week out and ready to get this thing going.
Like I said, there's two mics. Just pass them to each other so I don't get in your way of the camera.
Dan, you said that at the dinner, your theme of this season is transformation. And other than just having to dip into the portal more so than you usually do, when you get together as a coaching staff, what are some things that you kind of discuss internally as some things that you want to transform with maybe your approach to coaching the game of baseball?
Yeah, I think one of our common phrases a lot we use with our players, and I got it from my old FCA director, Wes Yeary, who did a chapel on learn and grow. I don't know if you ever stop wanting to learn and grow. So as coaches, we need to learn and grow as players, and obviously as a program. And so, we fell short last year from a handful of our goals, and so we had to, as you say, go back to the drawing board. The word I used was transformation. As I learned in a church service, the pastor made a great point about, when you go to church, it's easy to be convicted. You come out on a Sunday afternoon, that was a great message. Conviction is good. There's nothing wrong with conviction, but conviction's a daily thing. Like that thing, you're going to wake up tomorrow morning, you're going to be the same person, that you were today. Transformation is a real change. And, fortunately, I've been with these coaches for a long time. Coach Williams and Coach Mundorf going on 19 years, and Coach Snyder and Coach Rabel over a decade. So, knowing them and who they are and great coaches, I just felt like, myself looking in the mirror and each coach, how do we get the best out of our players and our program? And the transfer portal is always a interesting topic, and it's something you talk about our program. But in my opinion, we didn't fall short because of lack of transfer portal. I mean, we had guys in our program that we recruited and didn't develop. We didn't get the most out of them. They didn't get the most out of themselves. And so, there's no pointing the finger or blaming or why. The players in our program last year didn't perform at the level that they could have. That's our responsibility as coaches, and they obviously have to be accountable and they have to take ownership in that. So, it's fun to talk about transfer portal, and recruiting is always a big thing. At the end of the day, I mean, we've all got the same amount of players, and we got to get our players to play at a high level. And if we can get our players to play at a high level, you don't have to be an All-American, but there's a reason those All-Americans get put on the wall out there. Because when you get kids to play at a high level, they lift others up, and you increase your chances of dogpiling and having a championship-type season. And so I'm very confident with the group we have right now. If we can get them to play at a high level, then I think we have a chance to go a long way.
Speaking of change, and everybody talks about it throughout college sports, but as far as your team and the roster construction this year, did you change anything from last year, the year before last year? I mean, you're always tweaking something, but was there any major changes on how you put it together and how you look for guys, or where you kind of maybe look for portal guys?
Yeah, our strength is recruiting players, getting them in our program, and developing them. So the more players we can get in our program for 2, 3, 4 years, that increases their chances of being great players, especially in our system. I've been saying the last 2 recruiting classes, the freshman and sophomore class, we have not lost a draft pick, which again, maybe there wasn't a first rounder coming out of high school. I get it. But it's not just losing a first rounder out of your signing class. It's maybe losing a guy that wasn't ready to be a first rounder, but he wanted to cross the line into pro ball. And we have a lot of good, young, talented players. then use the portal to fill some holes. And we definitely had to fill a couple holes with an outfielder, with an infielder, with some pitching. I think that's going to be a staple in every recruiting class. And I think some of the names you'll become familiar with are also junior college guys. So, we always have brought in, Adam Duvall was a junior college guy, and I hope Cooper Bowman breaks into the big leagues this year, was a junior college guy. And so we feel like we've got the right junior college guys. We definitely got the right high school guys, and excited about the few portal guys that we were able to bring in. And we feel like it's a good mix, but, we got to run out there and do it.
When it comes to the development aspect of things, was there anything that you guys decided to tweak a little bit in how you approach that aspect to your program?
I think it started in evaluating every area of the program. So you guys will get a chance to tour our new weight room. And I think, what we were doing strength and conditioning wise, combined with the new training room, combined with the new Henry Davis locker room, we needed to improve some areas down here to help us get the most out of these players. And then I think as coaches, did we have all the pieces in place, the right resources, the right support system, and how you coached hitters 5 years ago or pitchers 5 years ago. I mean, you're still teaching the fundamentals and the basics, but you're using more data, you're using more numbers, you're speaking their language. I love that challenge. I've been coaching 18 to 22-year-olds for over 30 years. So, that hasn't changed as much as, their language, what they see, what they hear. And that's the adaptation process as a coach that, we're excited about that new challenge.
Dan, just talking about leadership of this team, Matt Klein is somebody that you kind of talked highly about, specifically comparing him to Will Smith and kind of moving forward. How important of an approach is it going to be to have him as a vocal leader on top of production offensively? Yeah,
he was voted a team captain. He was a captain for our Omaha Challenge. He won the Omaha Challenge. I mean, that's an impressive, to be the best overall athlete, one of the best in the program with the events that we had, and I'm just knowing what Matt's been through. I compared him to a Will Smith, and obviously you got to be careful because of who Will Smith is today. But when Will came out of KCD High School to play here as a freshman, Matt Klein was doing very similar things to Will Smith. The difference was Matt got hurt, and he lost that summer, and he lost the fall, and so last spring you weren't seeing his best because he was behind. He put together a great summer, and he put together a great fall. And so, he's put himself in a position to be in line. We like to call ourselves maybe Catcher U due to Coach Snyder and the great catchers we've had. And so for this team and this program to be back to that championship level, we have to be great behind the plate. And we think Matt can do it offensively and defensively. But if you follow our program closely, we don't ever rely on one guy. We don't drop it on his shoulders. It's like our quarterback room, man. We have a catching fraternity in there. And so I'm hoping Taggart Tyson and George Baker and maybe even Colin Maurer, I hope some of these young guys step up and help us as well.
You've got a number of guys coming back from last year's team, obviously wanting them to take them to the next step in their career. Zion Rhodes had an unbelievable year last year. What do you want to see from him in this year after following the offseason that he's had?
Well, I think in Zion's case, he's transitioning, from basically an everyday catcher, and last year he did a lot of DH for us, to an everyday outfielder. And that was something that we had some discussions this summer. That's where his heart was. And all right, let's do that. And I had a conversation with him at USA Baseball on the field. And as I was walking to the car that night, I called Coach Snyder and I said, all right, we're transitioning Zion to an everyday outfielder. So again, roster management is like always at the forefront. Where are you with your outfielders? Where are you with your catchers? And it's been fun to see him out there. He hasn't arrived yet, but he's working very hard in the outfield. And I think he'll get better and better as the year goes on. I think he'll be better in May than he'll be in February. And for me, I want him to enjoy the game. He had success as a freshman, but he witnessed a lot of frustration and where we fell short last year. And man, I want him to enjoy the game. He definitely doesn't have to do this by himself. If you've watched us in scrimmages or hopefully this first weekend or first month, you're going to go, man, we think we're going to be very offensive. We're very physical. We got a lot of speed. And I think Zion's kind of a representation where I can hit him anywhere in the lineup. I can lead him off, but I don't have to lead him off. I can hit him third. I don't have to hit him third. And that's really because of all the pieces we have around him, other guys with speed, other guys with power, other guys with high contact ability. So I just want Zion to continue to get better, smile and have fun, and enjoy winning. That's what Louisville baseball is. It's winning, and we just got to be a little more consistent and get back on that winning track.
Going more of a veteran in Eddie for you, had a big season last year and come back. Like, how high are your expectations with him?
They're super high for Eddie because, in a lot of regards, he didn't have a great year. What's crazy is statistically, you look up, it's like 14 home runs and 45 RBI, which most hitters would raise their hand right now, and they would take that. I'll take 14 and 45. Now, I'm sure they probably want, 16 and 60, and that's fine to want more, but Eddie just got off to such a slow start. It was really like 2 seasons for Eddie. And it was like that in the Cape, a bad first half, good second half. And it was like that for us, a bad first half, good second half. And sometimes that's combination. You're not 100% healthy. You start to press. It's the draft year, and you're trying to do things that you're supposed to do. It was really encouraging for me to see him finish the way he did, and to the point where we didn't think we were getting him back. I honestly, we saw enough, and of course I see him every day, so I'm biased, but what he did that last month of the season, I thought, well, we're losing him now. He's going to sign. So, there's a part of me that selfishly I'm glad he's back, but more for him to do 2 things. Put together a full year and enjoy dogpiling, because when he was a freshman here, he got to see us win an ACC championship. He got to see us win a regional. He got to see us, come 2 wins away from going to Omaha. So, I want Eddie to enjoy the reason he came here, and like so many kids come to this program, So I'm again, and like Zion, Eddie will tell you, man, he does not have to do this by himself. The good news is, man, we're going to protect these guys. There's hitters that are going to protect other hitters, and I can make up a lineup easily 14, 15 guys. I got a deep, serious question in the Shriners Classic interview, and my opening joke was, man, that's a deep question. I'm trying to figure out the lineup. Like, I'm trying to, and you're asking me something like way above my head. And so that gives me a lot of optimism for Zion and Eddie and Klein. And as you can see, we're starting to mention a lot of guys, man. We think it's going to be a deep lineup.
Yeah, just talking about the rotation, the depth of it, what are we going to see as far as the construction of it? And do you feel like you do have enough pitching this season to not only make it through, but to make a deep run and eat up innings as well? Yeah,
a lot of good phrases you use, enough pitching, eat up innings, make a run. Because, I can't sit here today. We don't have some of those past staffs with the street cred, maybe because of what they did as a freshman or sophomore. I do love the pieces in place. I feel like there's a lot of depth. And if Coach Williams were sitting here right now, and I think he'd be super honest a little over a week out, like the starting rotation, man, you got Forbes, you got Cutts, you got a Michael, you got a Detmers, you got a Hartman, you got a West. Like, you've got 6+ candidates that could run out there and start, whether that's because of their experience, a little bit of the street cred and the reputation, and we've seen them do it at the college level. I'm probably going to refrain from mentioning really any freshmen other than maybe 2, because they're also 2A guys. And then you have a lot of arms if you go to the bottom or the closer and you say, hey, Bivin has a reputation of pitching in the back end, had a good summer with USA Baseball that we're going to have several pieces to help Bivin along the way, and you look at Stark, had some really good outings last year. Eli Hoyt, one of our junior college transfers that we brought in. I'm anxious for a Schlagater and a Daniel Levitz, like lefties that are in our program, haven't had a ton of success, or maybe they've been on the DL, but man, there's stuff there. Take those guys with a group of talented freshmen, and yeah, I'm very optimistic about the pitching staff. But to say how it's going to unfold, we're going to run them out there, and we'll see how it unfolds over this, not just this weekend, but really this first month of the season. Get outs, like run out there and get outs. I love telling the Justin Amlung story because sitting here, nobody was talking about Justin Amlung, and 4 months later, the guy's throwing a Big East, call it championship game, and we're dogpiling on the mound. But he just started in the bullpen, and through 3 outs became 6 outs, and 6 outs became 9 outs, and then it became a midweek start, then it became a weekend start. And it's like that's they should all have that mindset. Like, no entitlement. When the ball gets flipped to me, dude, run out there and get outs. Like, I don't know how, as a pitcher, that's not at the forefront. And I'm not saying it's not with them, because some years you hear all that, I want to be the Friday night, I want to be this, I want to be that, and there's nothing wrong with a pitcher wanting to be the Friday night starter. I'd like to think we got many pitchers that say, I want to get outs. I want to get Division I outs, and I want to do it on a consistent basis. I want to be trusted. I want the coaches to trust me, that I want my teammates to trust me. That's where I think we're heading towards, and I'm looking forward to running these guys out over the next couple weeks.
You mentioned Zion and Eddie in the outfield, but you've got some other guys. How do you manage the depth that maybe it appears that you have in the outfield?
Yes, because of Eddie coming back, and because of Zion transitioning to an outfield, because of Garrett Pike, the All-American, showing up, and we went from, are we going to be really young in the outfield, to, oh, wow, we're pretty old in the outfield. Lucas Moore does a lot as a freshman. Great summer in the Northwoods League. Michael Lippy, if there's one thing this program's had, it's program guys, right? It's the Danny Rosenbaums, it's the Cam Mastermans, it's the Ben Biancos. It's the guys that it might have taken them a little bit of time to get going, but man, they put together really good years late in their career. And that's what we want Michael Lippy to do, And so play bodies that are fresh, healthy, off to a good spot. I hate to say set them up to succeed, because I don't want to overlook matchups early on. Let righties face good righties and let lefties face good lefties, and let's see in a month or so, where guys are at, and but they've earned the opportunity. So, that's where trying to figure out the lineup is something that I enjoy thinking about, but those are things at the forefront. And this is a big weekend. Like, I told our coaches and the players, like, man, you're running out there this weekend. I can't imagine there's many guys that are comfortable, like they're penciled into the lineup. They think they're in the lineup, or they think they got a good chance to be in the lineup, but we still got a lot of competition. And coaching amateurs for over 30 years, I learned that's the best thing for them. There's a guy standing right next to them that's every bit as good as them, that's going to be able to take that job.
Since the end of last season, whether that be in summer ball, fall ball, or this preseason, who do you think has made the most improvement or progress in their game, and someone who you're kind of keeping your eye on as someone who can have a potentially breakout season this year?
I think we just talked about Lippy. And even though he didn't have a great summer, it's okay, because we've coached great players that maybe have struggled in the Cape or the Northwoods League or the New England League, but it's that learn and grow. And it forces you to make some adjustments. I tell the Jeff Gardner story. He might have hit one something that fall, and it was not pretty. But sometimes, man, when you fail and you struggle and you have to go back to the drawing board, you have to make adjustments. And he goes out there and puts himself on that All-American wall and helps us win another championship and helps us go back to Omaha. So we're optimistic, of a guy like that. I think Alex Alisea is a guy who had a good freshman year, probably a little under the radar because of all the older players that deserve their name being mentioned. But as the head coach, but also the infield coach, I look at my infield, and I've said it publicly, like I've got Alex probably playing shortstop, and I feel good with Jake Monroe and Tage Davis, and we've got some nice combinations there. But I feel like I've got a group of infielders fighting for who's the fourth infielder, right? Who is going to be that fourth infielder? Because for me, Alex has proven he's it. He's in the middle. He's earned it. He does it every day. Could easily be our leadoff hitter. And so I'm trying to match up combinations with him. Is it Byram Hop? Is it Kamayu Neighbors? Is it Tanner Shiver? Right? These are our transfer portal guys, right? So this is where we had to plug somebody in to say, okay, who's going to play with Alex? And so I hope he becomes a household name this year, kind of like Lucas Moore, another sophomore. And then, I don't want to oversell the freshmen. Like I said, I think Tage Davis has done a lot in the fall and spring training where his name's on the board. But I mentioned Tage and Jack Brown because they're real two-way players, like real two-way players. And Tage, a little farther ahead as a hitter, and will pitch. And maybe Jack's a little farther along as a pitcher, and he'll hit. But as I keep telling those two, as the roster limit's going to go to 34, and the value of you guys, and I might tease Forbes and I might tease Bivin, like, hey, if you guys were coming out of high school now, you'd still be two-way players. Like, I wouldn't allow you to not be a two-way player because the value of those, and those are a couple young guys that can definitely help us.
Shriners Classic, you talked about it yesterday a little bit on the Shriners Classic press conference, but you get an opportunity to open up against Texas, who's certainly going to put a few thousand people in the stands and play three really good ball clubs over that weekend. Are the guys kind of getting jazzed up about the opportunity that they have there?
Yeah, I mean, every year you're so excited, you're so ready for the season, but I would think coaches like that. You see it in football, that big early season matchup, and I just think you'd like to think you have their attention when you're playing an opponent like that. I mean, we got the challenge of playing Texas A&M in Houston opening night, a few years ago. So I smiled when I saw that. I figured whoever's playing Texas is getting the Friday night game, and it happened to be us. So I just smiled and thought, man, how much fun is that going to be to play in front of that fan base in that city with a brand new coaching staff and the expectations that they have. So my job will be to keep everybody's heart rate under control. And as much as I feel like I'm a football coach, coaching baseball, by tackling anybody that opening night's not going to help us win the game. So let's just play the game, throw strikes, make plays, get some timely hits. But it's going to be a lot of fun, and I hope it's fun for our fan base, as it seems like a lot of people, I either get two things if I see you right in the Kroger grocery store. Coach, I'm a season ticket holder. Good luck this year. Or this year I'm getting, hey, Coach, we're going down to Dallas. I'll see you down there. And so I love when fans kind of give me that.
And you'd mentioned Kamayu Neighbors. As far as the transfer portal the last couple of years, you've been able to grab a couple guys that have ended up being captains. Some vocal leaders as well, especially out on the field. In terms of when you're looking to bring guys in, how much does fit and things like that and leadership quality play in versus just what they do on the ball field?
It's a great question because obviously this is a numbers game and you have a lot of numbers, so you're looking at the numbers, but it wouldn't be fair to the players that came here out of high school, that came here for all the right reasons, that love what this culture is all about. I hate to say bring in a bad apple. So I think it's our responsibility as coaches. I give Coach Snyder and Coach Williams, Coach Vrabel, Mike Allman is sitting on that computer, and we're trying to find as much information as we can. We're calling as many people as we can. Several of the head coaches that these guys have played for, I'll call them, and sometimes they're not easy, conversations, but they understand why I'm calling. I'm not the reason they're players in the portal. We've had some players obviously go in the portal, but I think they respect that. I trust what they're going to say about a young man. So Peter Michael, from Northwestern, a Kamayu Neighbors, a Byram Hott, we're talking to their coaches. We're trying to find out as much information as we can, and you trust people that you trust in the business, and then you go with your gut, you go with your heart. What's the first question out of their mouth? What are they really concerned about? What words? What are they speaking? What's the language they're speaking? Because there's certain languages that let's move on to the next guy. That can't be our language. And that's fine for them. That's not fine for us. So yeah, I think we've done a pretty good job of bringing in the right guys. And then the challenge is connection and being very creative and very open about, man, we've got to find ways to get these guys to connect. And so we're doing a lot in our decision making and as a coaching staff to help these players connect. But got to give Kamayo a lot of credit because he earned a lot of respect immediately when he got here, and that's, but you said vocal, the way he works, and when the players say, hey, we want this guy to be a team captain, that's a great statement. I was really proud of him to hear that.
You mentioned Forbes, kind of your thoughts and expectations for him, this season and what he's done, in the offseason.
Similar to, we talk about Zion, the difference is, Zion had a really consistent year, and outside of a couple hiccups, he was out of the lineup for short periods of time. I want Patrick to be a regular, be a regular. I don't care if that's Friday, if that's Saturday, if that's Sunday. I want the ball flipped to you and go, man. Give us 100+ pitches. Give us 5, 6, 7 innings. Be a count on guy. You might have your own goals and things you're trying to accomplish and all that. That's fine, but just be a guy that we can count on. The talent is there, but let him grow into his own, man. Just pitch and compete. Let's play great defense behind him, and learn how to pitch out of jams and get off the field. And we've seen flashes of it. Just unfortunately, he was too good a position player as a freshman. And then last year he had 2 injuries, the lat pull and I pinch hit him, and he breaks his hand on an HBP, and so as a coach you're like, oh man. So I just want him to enjoy being a everyday pitcher and a count on guy.
Dan, you talked a little bit about some of the facility upgrades. Just how much of a difference do you think that makes for the program? Something that we've spoken to you about before, but just what does it mean to you to see that get done over the past year?
I don't know. You look at this campus, you look at great programs around the country. Hey, man, NIL is important. We obviously know it is. We see it at the forefront in the athletic world, but I don't buy it starts with NIL. I don't buy that. It's a player. It starts with facilities and resources. Money comes and goes. Kids want to get better. Kids want to work. Kids want to play in first-class facilities. And as appropriately, we're honoring Jim Patterson for 20 years at Jim Patterson Stadium. This is not what it is. I'm not here, and we're not even having this type of interest if it's not for that stadium. If we're being honest, right? It started with Jim Patterson building that stadium. So the need for first-class facilities, in my opinion, is always going to be at the forefront. Because don't act like those teams playing in the 12, football playoff, or the teams that are going to play in the Final Four, or the teams that are playing in Omaha don't have first-class facilities. So that's huge for us, and we saw that last year. And we were so close, and we're not going to live in the past, but as I've told a couple baseball people out there, like, if you want to bet on Louisville, I think it's a safe bet because I think we're a little under the radar. And don't forget, man, we were the 6th seed. In my opinion, one of the best leagues in the country. 4 teams ahead of us went to Omaha. The 5th team could have easily gone to Omaha. And we were that close, you know. And when you're that close, as I learned in 07, when you get the call and you're in the regionals and your locker room jumps up and down and celebrates, 3 weeks later you're in Omaha. And we were that close. Now, we didn't get to jump up and down. We didn't get to celebrate. We didn't get to keep playing. So I just put that on my shoulder. Said, okay, that's a healthy chip for myself and our coaching staff and our program. And I'm very confident, very optimistic that we can run out there and do some special things this year.
Everybody good?
Good.
All right.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, everybody.